Hey guys, good morning. Tuesday market breakdown. Let's go. Let's do this. So, what we're looking at today is the DXY over here. We can see on the daily that we are moving down progressively. We had a nice little daily close, followed by another bearish close. I'll just remove these off just so you can see the wicks as well. We can see that we did have some pretty decent price action here. We did have a little bit of a gap open, very, very minor. We can see that there. So, looking at this, there's always that possibility that with the DXY, this could just be a small little signal that, we could push lower. It's possible, but this can still move up further. Always know that's a possibility, but given how the sequence of this forecast is, we are looking for that short play. So we are looking for price to decline in line with USD CAD, USD Yen, and USD Swiss. So it would be in our interest to actually see this short play through. And if this does start to commit, either aggressively or correctively, we'll see similar sort of movement across the board on US related pairs. So the USD dollar currency index is looking pretty good, DXY, so we are just going to pretty much have to wait in anticipation. This can take a few days to form, or it can be very aggressive. If this becomes very aggressive and just starts to drop off, then we will have to wait and then evaluate then. But we definitely have a lot of a potential move on the table for this, so keep a very close eye on this because it can shape up and become very, very nice. So that's basically it for the DXY. Let's jump into the watch list. So looking at the watch list now, we can basically see that with USD CAD, we are basically hovering around about this zone here. Now, we did have somewhat of a bullish close on the pin bar, which, I think all in all is still pretty nice. I think the fact that with the DXY short in and where it's positioned, we have this gap over here, which we can see on pretty much most US related pairs. We have this it's not the most obvious gap because we did tap into it, but then as we approached, we kind of just pushed away, but then we've pushed away the form of structure leading up to the override. We pushed up, tapped into the override, and aggressively pushed off, which is a little bit more clear on the 4 hour. As we got to the 4 hour, we can see that we had a nice little pin bar, kind of followed with an evening star sort of feel to it, and then we had aggressive push off. We had this sort of price action over here where we were looking for flag territory in our Sunday market breakdown, which you can find the link in the description below. And essentially we were just looking for flag territory. So this was the larger flag sort of section. However, we knew that there was always a possibility once we started correctively pushing off that we could create smaller flags. So really and truly, I wasn't just looking for this section to be filled, because yes, that is always a possibility. However, we have to understand that even this would be enough. So hence the reason why I kind of just kept it a little bit small, and now it's just evolved and become a little bit larger. At this point in time, it doesn't really matter how this pattern forms as long as we can actually just get an entry in here. So at the moment, it's not the cleanest of structures because this still has room to maybe even come back up, tap into this and then sell off. However, this may be more than enough for this to actually just drop off now. So I would keep an eye on this for sure. It's not the cleanest of structures, it's not the easiest for people to catch. However, by reading between the lines, we can definitely see that there's opportunity within this. I think right now, looking at how price is approaching this inflection zone, could we see this bounce one more, push back up, kind of creating something in the line of something like that, maybe a little bit more parallel, and we may see some sort of price action like this across the board. So if that's a possibility, then this could be a very good short play. I think we just have to wait in anticipation now to just see how this price action forms. I would give it some time to materialize, because if this does happen and then we just come off here, then that would be a much better entry point for us to play, even so if it even later here, and then we look at that as an override and we kind of just pushed up, tapped into this and then sold off. I wouldn't be surprised. However, I wouldn't also be surprised if we stay on the higher time frame, stay on the 4 hour, and we look at price here and we remove these because it doesn't have to be as relevant, and we just look at price as it is, and we can see that from this point we basically just kind of tapped into this, and now we're pushing off and we just kind of have this scoop. It is corrective on the 1 hour as well, so that would be more than enough in a sense. However, it's not the cleanest of structures, so I wouldn't really just put all my my risk in one basket basically. But looking at it, it's definitely looking like positioning yourself here could be very good, especially if the DXY does begin to drop off. Bearing in mind with the DXY we do have this sort of expanding at the moment, where you know that is basically a movement to the low, kind of giving you that head and shoulders feel, and then does that kind of give you the catalyst to push further down or create that corrective move. So that's why looking at the USD CAD for a short is not a bad idea at all in that zone there. But even so, it may be a little bit too late for this position. There'll be more opportunity on the way down. Essentially just wait for that short play, break below here, create some sort of tight consolidation, and then we're in for another short. So there'll be plenty and plenty of opportunity, just have to be patient and wait for it, especially if the DXY is going to be corrective. The next one I'll be looking at is Euro New Zealand. So Euro New Zealand was actually a phenomenal trade. It was a little bit unfortunate because I wasn't able to capture this trade at all. I wanted to see something more in line with the sort of squeeze to the high, so I was looking at this originally, which I think is not a bad shout at all. I'll just quickly replay the candle, and essentially we had this here, and we always knew that this override could definitely play as well. And then basically I was waiting for price to just kind of make its way, push up, push back down, flag, and then go. But it seems that obviously we had different plans, and we had this very impulsive sort of push to that override, tapped into the override ever so slightly, and now we're aggressively selling off. There isn't really any clear opportunity in there, and I wouldn't have taken that entry by itself personally. I mean, it's definitely at a level off valid, but it somewhat holds a bit lower probability to me. So we had a 1, 2, 3 nice equal space and scoop as well, and now we're just aggressively selling off. So it's just a bit of a mistrade at this point, but there'll be abundance of opportunity, don't worry about it. I would wait for, you know, either it pushes down or it comes back up, creates a flag, and then you would have to evaluate. But then what you have to realize is this just becomes one bit of corrective messy price, and then that could just be something for something even bigger to play, where this sort of bit of position becomes a head and shoulders, and it pushes up, comes back, creates another bit of corrective price, and then goes. So understand the risks involved, but definitely we need to clear some of this price before we start getting involved. But there'll be an abundance of opportunity if we look at the bigger picture. You know, we're still way high up in structure, so if we do start committing and playing through with this, there could be massive opportunity to this low. So I wouldn't just kind of just jump involved and hope for the best. Just, you know, hold your capital together, and honestly, like the opportunities will show very soon. Just keep an eye on it for sure. The next one is Australian US dollar. So this one kind of took me out for a break even. How I saw it was on yesterday's recording, the Monday market breakdown. Basically had this pin bar, was able to capture the pin bar up here and mitigate risk at the top. And I'll just quickly zoom out so we can see the structure. And we basically approached this inflection zone with a 1, 2, 3, and then at that point there, evaluating price, we had a pattern within a pattern, and 1, 2, 3 within this 1, 2, 3, which was very nice. And then as we led up to it, we had that pin bar close. I was very happy to take that position and understanding the risks involved. As we pushed down, it wasn't the most aggressive sort of movement once we kind of reached this sort of back into the pattern, and then we kind of corrected and then squeezed back up. I was hoping that we would kind of just commit a bit more, and when we had RBA interest rates around about 30 past in the morning, around about here, I was hoping, and I was looking at price potentially coming here, so I left my risk up here, and then as the RBA interest rates were gone and we were committing and we were pushing down here, that's when I moved it to break even and then was just tagged out. It's just a sequence of the position, unfortunately it happens, but you know, we'll catch the next one. So that's basically what happened with Aussie and New Zealand dollar. Still a very phenomenal instrument to be trading right now. We're so high up in structure, there's an A to B movement to here, and I think that could be a very good move. And then if we do start committing even further, we could be looking at an even bigger picture where we start committing in here. So I would definitely keep an eye on this pair for sure, because I think there's so much potential right now. So you know, just keep a very keen eye on this, because this can be trading very aggressively very soon. The next one I'm looking at is Aussie Yen. Now, this was one of the reasons why with Aussie New Zealand dollar, I was kind of a bit iffy with RBA rates, because we can see that there's still a bit more of a run involved on this one. We still need to be pushing up aggressively to meet that override, or we can tap into this mini override over here, but I'm also looking for a push above this section, either tap into that potential 1, 2, 3, or the other forecast where we had something like that, opposed to this more higher up angled 1, 2, 3. So those were the ones that I was basically looking at. I think this is more the favorable one at this point in time now, but just looking at how the other yen pairs are shaping up. But if this shapes up, this would be very nice as well. It's just the angle wasn't really on point for me, and this had more of a middle section to it. So for that reason alone, I kind of just opted in to say, you know, I would look for this structure opposed to the other one. But at this moment in time, like I said, it's not really the sort of price action that I'm willing to entertain. So I might just leave this one on the sideline and wait for some commitment, and then get involved in something probably when we get that push up, push down, and a flag, and then that's when I'll be getting involved. But looking at it right now, it still looks very stunning. It just needs a little bit more development. The next one is GBP Yen. So GBP Yen is now trading in a very, very valuable zone. Been waiting for this for absolutely weeks now. So we are now here. All we need to do is wait for hourly close, kind of just see where price ends up, and when the market gives us this signal, we can potentially look to get involved. I think we're trading in a very, very valuable zone, and if this starts to sell off aggressively, we may see a similar catalyst effect on other pairs as well. So that's something that I'm very interested in seeing. I'm not too bothered about structure right now because we have pushed in impulsively. However, we can create something a little bit more deeper, but I am looking at this 1, 2, 3. That's basically what my eyes are gravitating towards at the moment. I don't think there's anything much else that I would kind of be worried about. I think in terms of, you know, looking at a pattern within a pattern, it kind of just falls in a little bit like Aussie Yen, where we had this sort of structure, but it wasn't really complete. There wasn't really a middle section, so I couldn't really make it out. So yeah, for those reasons, I think I'll just be extra patient now. I won't even worry about that. I'll keep it very simple and just say, you know, look, we had this very corrective push, impulsive, corrective, impulsive, and if it rejects from here, I'll have to wait for a push back down. So I'm not going to be entertaining a trade up here, but I'll be entertaining a trade down here, and that's where I'll be getting involved in the market. Stunning trade, honestly. This is going to be one of the best ones on watch, in my opinion, but we'll have to wait and see. The next one is CAD Yen. So CAD Yen as well, it's a little bit messy. We could scoop, mini double top and sell off, or we can actually start pushing up aggressively. So I would be extra patient with this one as well. It's not the cleanest price action. You know, up until this point over here, it was looking pretty decent for the trade, and then I think now it's just become very messy, as we can see how price developed over here. This is where we were like, okay, cool, this is commitment, let's see how it develops. And then as it just kind of got a bit more corrective and messy, this is where price kind of just changed, and now we're trading basically still in the same area. It's not really the sort of trade that I want to be getting involved in immediately. However, we have to understand that this could still be a part of some sort of structure that we're not really able to capitalize on at this point. But like I said, I wouldn't get FOMO'd in this area. I would wait for some commitment, wait for price to push down, break below all this price, and then go, or either push its way up aggressively and then sell off. So being patient with CAD Yen is in my best interest for capital preservation. The next one is moving on to the wild cards, which is for New Zealand Yen. New Zealand Yen is absolutely stunning, honestly. New Zealand Yen is going to have a very nice run to the high. So there was definitely buying opportunity into there in this area here, because we were looking at this zone here. We pushed away, we had that taken out the stops over here, and then we pushed up aggressively. From here to here, we're going to have a phenomenal move. We just have to be extra patient on this one and just see how it develops. So very similar to how EA has moved, but EA has retraced back a little bit as well. But yeah, we're seeing this very nice little aggressive push, and knowing this particular pair, New Zealand Yen, looking at this buying opportunity, it's going to be hell of aggressive. So keep an eye on this for sure. There's definitely not going to be much opportunity to get involved, because we're going to see this very sort of aggressive move. If I just borrow this price for a second over here, and I just put it on over here, you will see how, you know, how price can just quickly pretty much move. So essentially, if we look at it more so like this, price can just make its move, honestly. And it's quite funny because we're seeing something similar to this sort of price on Euro Aussie. But anyway, this is a sort of price action that, you know, I could probably expect from New Zealand yen. So I would say if you do see very impulsive action like this, you know, try your hardest not to FOMO into that trade. But yeah, you can definitely capitalize by just opening a decent size entry inside these sort of price structures. But you know, it comes with a bit of risk as well, because, you know, if you're trying to capture something like this and then you're like, okay, great, so I was able to get involved in that, but then sometimes you might get involved here, and then, you know, you're thinking this is that part of that run, and then what happens is it corrects down and creates this massive correction. Then you think to yourself, I could have just maybe got involved with a reduced risk entry, bit larger of a stop though, to be honest. But you know, there's always some sort of opportunity in here. It's just like I said, knowing this pair, when we do have these sort of impulsive environments, they're not the easiest to get involved in. So keep an eye on that for sure. New Zealand yen is going to be stunning. It's already started this move. In terms of an opportunity, there was one on the right here where we had this mini expanding 5-minute entry. Not the easiest to catch as well, once again, but this was it right here, and price basically tapped into this and then pushed away. So that's where you would have potentially been able to look at your AFT entry, and then maybe over here you would have said, okay, you know what, I could take this trade, I can mitigate my risk, maybe even 14 pips. I squoze in 10, but you could put in about 15, and then you can say, you know, that's basically a decent trade, and I think that would run you about 7%. Oh shit, that's the wrong way around. But yeah, even so, pretty decent position in itself. I wouldn't at all say that, you know, this pair is not going to be phenomenal in terms of price movement, because it will be. And yeah, so going in with 10 pips, you'd be looking at roughly around about 10% there. And then if you squeeze in 15, it'll be about 7. Yeah, about 7%. So even so, phenomenal. And remember, we're just taking it to the override. If you want to go further where it can extend, which this pair is notoriously famous for, you know, you could be looking at potentially a 10% on the 15 pip, and then maybe 12 odd 13, 15% on the 10. So, you know, it's looking very good. I think this pair is looking phenomenal. USD pairs though, can't wait to jump into USD yen. So let's jump straight into that. So USD yen, absolutely very, very nice pair. What I do love about this pair is that the fact that we tapped into this override, and now we're aggressively pushing lower to potentially fill this gap, which I've got so much data on my charts you can't see it. The reason why I haven't really cleared this off is it's just very nice to look at, honestly. It's very, very nice. But I think today is the day where I just kind of remove it off and we just look at what is most relevant. And here we are. So it looks very naked without all of that analysis on the chart. Well, here we are. So essentially, let's just remove all of this and let's have a look at what we're playing with. So we have this inflection point over here, which basically just kind of singles out this bit of price here. We have this override section here, which is in line with the higher time frame. As we look on the weekly, we are basically tapped into this override, and we approached it with structure, which is very nice. So if I just tap into this, and let's just take this bit of price here, and you could look at it like this, but I think in terms of an angle, you know, it was more so just a little bit more corrective. I think this is more so just a more angled one for most people. And let's just grab that, put that over there. Okay. It doesn't really matter though, I'll be honest with you. It's just, you have to kind of just see that we are in this parallel channel, and there's the possibility that, you know, we kind of just work within this. So more so, originally I was looking at it like this. So I guess, you know, that squeeze is a little bit less, but the override is the most important part. As we kind of push back down aggressively, we moved back through this. And then we created pattern within a pattern within a pattern, over here, pattern, 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 pattern. And now we're over here. This is a very good area, however, that you have to understand the possibility that we may not come down here until we reach up here somewhere. So this definitely leaves room for this aggressive push lower. However, this is what I'm kind of looking for, because as we know with USD yen, these sell moves can be very, very aggressive. And what we're seeing is, if I just squeeze into the line chart, we can see that there's the possibility now of left shoulder hedge and right shoulder, right? It's not the most common sort of, well, in a way it is, but we won't know it's fully confirmed until we have this price basically push down and break through this. This is in a very good value area for this potential pattern, so for that reason I would definitely be looking for this. And usually we tend to see these angled patterns line up like this, and this is a good little trick for you to use when you want to see this head and shoulders, because sometimes we see it meet with the left shoulder, but when it comes in at an angle like this, we sometimes see it kind of just work like that. And you can see, okay, this was the sort of area where you want to be getting involved, and then we remove that, and now we can potentially see if this short, we'll see some great movement across the pair for the US related pairs. So at the moment, I'm basically just looking for price to kind of sell off now, and then once we have that commitment, we'll be able to see price basically create more and more patterns for us to get involved for the short. Keeping it very simple, this is how we're seeing it. We see this as the override. We want to gravitate towards this to fill that near miss gap. We want to see price corrective on the way up, which we can see. We want to see if there's any leading up structures, and you know, sometimes it can feel like we're forcing the market. So if it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. But you know, most of the time I would just kind of just look at some references and say, okay, you know, it kind of lines up, it's kind of in a good value area, we do have some sort of leading up structure. I'm more than happy to kind of just, you know, just accept the fact that there's potential structure. There's a possibility that, you know, there is some good structure in here. I'll leave it as it is. There's no need to make it complicated. Now let's just actually have a look. So we have this override zone here, which we'll mark on as an override, and then we can see that we tapped into it with left shoulder, head, and then potential right shoulder. What I do like about this is if we look at it on the weekly, we can see that, you know, there's no sign of any aggressive bullish momentum at the moment. If we go to the daily, we can see that we have a bearish pin bar, but in the form of a bullish candle, which means that we could potentially fill the candle. However, we don't have to fill it completely, but it's possible. Looking at this now on the 4 hour, it shows the possibility that we can potentially sell off now. So what I was originally looking at was this point here for a flag to the downside. And we basically have that similar to what we're seeing on USD CAD, where we basically had this flag, we pushed up, and now we're kind of selling off. We're seeing similar price action on USD yen, which I really do like. So now that we've opened into the 10 o'clock candle, this is basically where I'm going to be evaluating to see if we do get that aggressive sell back in, and then we go. So this is basically where I want to be looking at the market very carefully to see if there's an entry point in here for us to go lower. There was definitely a good entry point up here, which is the one that I basically was eyeing up, and then we had this retrace. So this is essentially very nice, but it's not really enough to say this is the trade. So until we have a bit more further commitment, and then we have maybe some correction in here, we'll know that we could potentially be in a very good short position. However, at the moment, I think just holding fire a little bit might be better, because this can gravitate a little bit higher, fill that wick, and then come down. And then, you know, you might be wondering, oh, but I thought it was head and shoulders, this and that. Well, nothing is really guaranteed, so we just have to basically protect ourselves and make sure we're managing our risk appropriately. So that's basically it for USD yen, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see price sell off from here and aggressively just start to move lower, and then we get some sort of level of corrections in line with this basically. And I'll just copy that price again as we did with the other instrument. And we see something similar to this, where we basically just kind of aggressively push off, and then, you know, we make our way down here, and then seeing something like that would be no surprise to me at all. You know, I think this is very similar sort of price action we can see across the board for the US yen pairs. So, you know, just looking at it, it could be very, very nice. And I'll just mark that on over here. You know, we could see something like that, nice little middle section for us, and then we could be looking for a short play. So like I said, there'll be an abundance of opportunity on this. Don't FOMO, don't worry. You know, if you miss it, you miss it. It is what it is. There's always opportunity on these instruments. So Looking at that, moving on to the next one, which is USD Swiss. Now USD Swiss is a very nice. So it kind of works in line with the head and shoulders as well, just not in the most clearest of areas. So we have an entry point over there, we have this, and then we have the line in the sand. The line in the sand was broken, but I'll just zoom out to the high time frame so you can see what we're actually working with. So essentially we have this sort of massive price zone that we've boxed out. If I zoom into the daily and we just kind of keep an eye on what's happening here, we basically squeezed up here and then we aggressively pushed off, and now we're just correctively squeezing low, but it seems like we're gravitating to this low. However, we will aim to look at our first inflection point off this pattern, which will more so be over here. But given how, you know, some of these instruments they play pattern within a pattern within a pattern, so usually it just becomes a pattern, works into its own pattern, and just keeps going like this. And I'm looking for a similar sort of price action within here, where pattern within the pattern within the pattern within the pattern within the pattern. So the price target would really be to this low, because once we make it to that low, more than probably we'll probably retrace 50% of the candle, start the new pattern, and then go. So you know that it's not really a massive gameplay short, it's just more of a short to this low or to the low of the pattern. So looking at how it's forming, it's looking very nice. I think we have a very phenomenal position on the table if we can get that short play from the DXY. We just need to wait for the DXY to really start committing so that we can actually get involved in a lot of these pairs. GBP yen, let's see how that's doing. Yep, so candle closed, we're still trading up there. I wouldn't be looking for a trade right yet, but still there. Yeah, so USD Swiss, literally if I just take that off left shoulder and then meets with the right shoulder, and essentially it was this sort of bit of price here where we kind of started to go sideways. This was a point to be keeping an eye on, but we didn't quite get there, so we tapped into this bit of price, broke above, pushed down aggressively, and now we're looking for those sideways continuation patterns. And these are the ones that can tend to be quite profitable. So, you know, we could see something like this. Bear in mind that, you know, this would not be uncommon for price to just basically correct, tap in here, then sell off. That could be a very nice flag as well, and then that could be an aggressive short to that low. As we know, these third little legs are very impulsive. You know, once the pattern is complete, the end of the pattern is very impulsive majority of the time. So we just have to look and wait for that. But this could be a play, or we can aggressively just sell off from where we are now, because we kind of have more than enough. We basically created this sort of head and shoulders pattern. Like I said, it's not the most easiest pattern to be trading because of the angle. However, I would also just bear in mind that, you know, there's a few possibilities on the table, so don't just jump into this trade because we have a left shoulder, right shoulder possibility. It's not the cleanest, it's not even the nicest one to be trading right now. There's some better pairs on the table, but for sure this one has some potential as well because it's in line with the other US pairs. And if the DXY does start to sell off, keep an eye on this because you could see some aggressive move to this low as well. Next one is New Zealand CAD. Once again, it's nowhere near ready for me at all. I'm still waiting for price to come all the way down here before I even entertain an entry. So that one is basically a very short analysis. There's nothing really there. Could easily be taken off watch, but like I said, we'll leave it for now and just wait patiently to see how this forms. We might get an aggressive push up followed by continuation. That's what we want, but if we get that continuation to the downside in a very corrective way, we'll just be patient and wait for that. And last but not least, we have Euro Aussie. So Euro Aussie is actually looking really good. I think right now it's a very tricky point for a lot of people because the market's really shaking everyone off. So I've been looking at this sort of 1, 2, 3 structure, and then we have this inner structure, which is very nice. If we look at it on the hourly, we started getting very good commitment from this low. As we were saying with, I believe it was one of the other pairs, I think it was New Zealand yen, very similar, but you know, New Zealand yen, we had that commitment from here, and now we're still pushing off quite aggressively, whereas with Euro Aussie, we started pushing off, but then we pulled back quite aggressively, so it's not really the nicest of price action of now, but you know, we might still see that push up and this could just be a bit of just taking people out of the market. So I wouldn't be getting involved in the market here at all, but honestly it was looking very nice up until this candle just pushed down and took us out. But you know what, it's at the end of the day, it's still got potential. I think there's opportunity within here to go to this high. It just needs a bit of time and development, and I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, we get price just smashing through all of this and just going up, you know. So like I said, it's one of those ones where I think just patience is key. It will probably play out in the long run. We just have to be patient, but this can drop off, you know. Let's just have a look at GBP Aussie just before we end this. But yeah, GBP Aussie as well, like this one's been moving aggressively, didn't really have that decline, but if this starts to move off aggressively to the upside, which is looking phenomenal, honestly, this is looking stunning. GA is a good trade for this week. That bit of price over there, possible entry in there as well, and then just basically now breaking above this, and then let's just say that yeah, I mean, honestly, this is looking very nice. So GA could be a very good play to this high. I mean, wow, honestly, very nice in the beginning of the run, very strategic area, push up, aggressive. We've broken through this trend now and basically corrected, and yeah, I mean, honestly, it's got all the aspects of a very good quality position now, and we just look at it go to that high. So EA is looking nice, GA is looking even better. We have a few good pairs on board. I think keeping on watch is USD CAD for the short. Obviously, like I said, it can still be going short right now, just, you know, keep an eye on that for sure. And then we've got GBP Yen, which I think just needs a little bit more time. We could get that extension, could go up further, then push down, so always wait for that push down on the flag in these scenarios. USD Yen, I'm looking for that short position in this area here, and then USD Swiss, you know, like I said, it can develop, create a larger flag. We could see similar price action across the board with USD Yen and USD CAD, where we do create something like that 1, 2, 3. However, it's not needed and required. We can still just sell off aggressively. So that's basically what I've got on watch for this week. Let's see how this smashes it. Have a good evening, have a good day. If you did like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and drop a comment below if you have any questions. Catch you in the next video.